During the beach battle, Antiope saw Diana in mortal danger. She then leapt in the path of a speeding bullet to protect her niece. Keen-eyed observers would have noted that this coincides with a wound appearing on Diana's left arm. So it appears that Antiope, by throwing herself between the rifleman and Diana, was able to deflect that particular bullet enough for it to only graze Diana's arm. In subsequent scenes, Diana's wounded arm is bandaged, implying that it must have been temporarily tended to off-screen. After Steve's interrogation, Diana makes an appeal to the Amazons' sense of duty, for them to aid mankind in the unprecedented war described by Steve. In a heated exchange, Hippolyta rejects this appeal.
It is Ares who has these Germans fighting, and stopping the god of war is our foreordinance. As Amazons, this is our duty.
But you are not an Amazon like the rest of us. So you will do nothing. As your queen, I forbid it.
The first scene in the infirmary starts with a slight deviation from the screenplay. Instead of having Diana's arm being sutured, here we see Epione, the chief physician of the Amazons, removing the bandage from Diana's arm. To the physician's surprise, it is revealed that Diana's arm has already healed. It's unclear if Epione's surprise is due to this accelerated healing being a new power manifesting in Diana, or if Diana's rate of recovery is simply surprising in comparison to what Epione is used to seeing in other Amazons. The physician then asks if it's true that Diana saved his life. If we think about it, Diana had run off to a secluded area in order to reflect on what happened during the training session. It is in this relatively isolated area that Steve made his dynamic entry into the story. There weren't any other Amazons around, so how did Epione know that Diana had saved his life? And so Diana naturally asks,
Who told you that?
He did.
We then cut to another section of the infirmary where we see Steve. He is playfully fascinated by the mysterious phosphorescent waters of the Themysciran baths. If we pause here, we can see that Epione has dressed the wound on Steve's shoulder. In the foreground, in the bottom right corner, we can also see a watch, which we'll elaborate on later. As Steve rises to exit the bath, we note that his body is covered with cuts and bruises, as well as scars from other battles. In an inversion of the male gaze, Diana enters the scene just as Steve exits the baths. This awkward moment is played for laughs, at first superficially and subsequently in the subtext, but the scene organically evolves into a sincere interaction.
You know, I didn't get a chance to say this earlier, but thank you for dragging me out of the water.
Thank you for what you did on the beach.
After Diana sizes up Steve, we are formally introduced to a very important prop, a Waltham pocket watch which was adapted to be worn on the wrist. For an immortal like Diana, timekeeping is perhaps not the highest priority. She finds it amusing that this little thing dictates his actions, at least at first. But through the words of Steve's father, we see that this watch is imbued with a thematic significance. Steve's words resonate with her, especially as this is in the wake of Diana's heated exchange with Hippolyta, who ordered her to do nothing.
My father told me once, he said, if you see something wrong happening in the world, you can either do nothing or you can do something. And I already tried nothing.
In the original screenplay, there is a subtle difference, as Steve's father says, if you see something wrong in the world, you can either do nothing or you can do something, and you already tried nothing. This wording implies that Steve's father is telling him to do something. In the film, however, the quote from Steve's father ends with, you can either do nothing or you can do something, and Steve is the one who adds the line, and I already tried nothing. This subtle change gives Steve a dimension of self-reflection, as he considers his earlier failings through inaction and makes a different choice of his own accord. This essentially gives Steve more agency as a character. In matching shots towards the end of the scene, Note how Diana is juxtaposed with a glowing glass vase of phosphorescent water, while Steve is juxtaposed with what looks like a black urn. If we look back to the history lesson sequence, there we saw Zeus shown to channel and direct lightning. In real life, when lightning hits the ground, it forms a glassy material called a fulgurite. So the glass being filled with a blue light and juxtaposed with Diana could be interpreted as another early hint of Diana's divinity, as she is filled with a divine power much like her father Zeus. Steve, by comparison, is a mere mortal and is destined to return to the ash from which he came. The light and dark also correlates to the yin-yang principle. Yin and yang are complementary and represent a unity of opposites in a cycle of dynamic equilibrium. We should note that each side has the seed of the opposite. This yin and yang interrelationship is further developed in the film as the characters become the impetus for each other at crucial points in their journey. It's worth noting that as Steve lays out the choice to do nothing versus do something, he is positioned between the black urn on the left and the waterfall on the right. If Diana chooses to do nothing, then she will remain with the virtually ubiquitous waterfalls of Themyscira. However, if she decides to do something, then she will leave Themyscira and face death in man's world, as symbolized by the urn. As implied by Steve, his choice earlier in life to do nothing was not helpful in the end. Diana, now grappling with her mother's decree and her innate drive to help humanity, ultimately resolves to do something.